Thank you, everybody, for coming to our first meeting since February. I feel like it's been forever. I don't even know what we're supposed to do. But it says on my agenda that I'm to welcome the members and new members. We don't have any guests today, but we do have some new members. Who among you have never been to an HSV Audubon meeting before? Raise your hand. Thank you so much for coming. Thank you. And we hope to have some more meetings in some venue. They will be virtual for the next couple of months, but we'll let you know how those plans progress because we want to keep you in the loop, keep you all involved in Audubon. With regard to our financials, we are in very good shape financially right now because we did not have the large expenditure for the ecology camp this year. We expect that that's going to level out here over the next 6 months or year, but we're fortunate in that we have that money right now available to us, and so we're not in distress. That doesn't mean, however, that we don't want your membership or for you to encourage others to become members. So please, please, please involve yourself with Audubon and join us. The membership dues can be paid online. They are for 2021. Anything you do now through the birdseed orders, or Adolph is here today to take your membership if you like, or you can easily go online and pay it with a credit card. It's real simple. Our committee reports. Ms. Vick, where are you? Ah, yeah, would you come up and talk about the sightings, please? Oops, gooey, sorry.
Good morning. Good morning. I kind of forget how to do this. It's been so long. But anyway, are you all going through a lot of hummingbird food?
Oh yeah.
Yeah? Okay. A lot? Or just because they're really flocking up right now, getting fat, and when you see them getting fat, you know it's about time for them to go. So I don't know how much longer we're going to have to enjoy them, so do it while you can. Anybody seeing anything interesting in their backyards, feeders? Nobody? I know we have a couple people. Orioles?
Female Orioles.
Okay, yeah. Carolyn?
But this is the first year ever that I've seen Orioles on multiple days. I first put the feeders out when Chris and Wayne Crone reported that you had Orioles. I've never put out Oriole feeders in the fall before, but I've now had Orioles. I had the first day the feeders come out, and I've seen them every day. And there were two gorgeous males and a female there, 4 out of them. So I've never had them stick around every day. But I've seen them in the fall, maybe one time.
I have never seen one in the fall in the village here. Okay, so to me that's an exciting report. And my feeders, we don't get them in the spring either, except a couple of years ago there was that one strange year where there were just tons of Orioles being reported in the state. And we had one come to a hummingbird feeder, which told me that if we put some jelly out, maybe it would be helpful for them. So anyway, there are some Orioles passing through, Baltimore Orioles. Did they change the name to Northern Oriole? I read something about that, but I think they did change the name on that. Yeah, but we know it as Baltimore Oriole. Any other reports of interesting birds in the village? And way in the back. Flickers, okay. You know, flickers I find them to be interesting birds because if you look on the checklist and that, they're here year round. But I don't, in the summer, I don't see many flickers. But yeah, that's what I mean. That's why I'm saying to me they're kind of strange because it's just they're here. Some people see them, and I don't know if it's a habitat thing or whatever it is. But there are, I did hear one down at Beaver Dam just the other day, so I know they're around as usual. Any other sightings?
I think I did have one more. And
Yes.
Almost not. I was hesitating for the reason for your time. But I saw a red-breasted nuthatch last Sunday morning, and I decided, no, I'm imagining things, it can't be, because it's a little early. But I know what a red-breasted nuthatch looks like, and I was really close to it.
Yeah.
There was nothing else it could be, and then I never seen it since.
You know, red-breasted nuthatches we're talking about. They're another interesting bird here in the village. It seemed for a long time they were on like an every other year cycle. They wouldn't come down in the winter unless the food sources up north were diminished. Last year I had a red-breasted nuthatch come in, maybe it was October, and then I didn't see it for the rest of the year. So if you know the nuthatches, as Carolyn surely does, you won't mistake a red-breasted nuthatch for any of the other ones. So another interesting sighting. I saw another hand somewhere. Tony.
That purple Evis that I saw in Hill 12.
Yeah, Tony sent me I don't know if it was a text or an email, and you'd been golfing and you were in Magellan and said that you found an Ibis or Ibis, and I went out the next day with my camera and just went all around the area there and didn't find it. So that would have been a really interesting find in the village. I don't think that we've ever had a sighting of Ibis. I'm not sure.
There's no documentation, but
Yeah.
I mean, it's pretty.
Yeah.
It's pretty identifiable with the beak.
Yeah, it has the curve. They're in the wading bird family, and they're relatively large, about the size of a green heron, maybe a little bit bigger, but they have a really curved bill, so they're pretty easy to identify. Kind of the rule of thumb for any of you, if you see something that really seems strange to you, doesn't belong here, if you can get a picture, it doesn't have to be a great picture, be very helpful. Any other sightings? Okay. Thank you.
Did you guys have a lot of bluebirds this year?
Yeah.
Yes, I had like 5 juveniles in the bird bath at once earlier. Kathy's going to tell us the real story about what's going on with our bluebird count. Miss Kathy?
First of all, am I holding this the right way? You can hear me? Or do I hold it this way? Up like this?
Speak
Okay.
up.
Speak up. I'll
Yeah.
speak up. I don't know how many of you know that I have a little dog. And just about every day, I wish that I could talk to that dog. She could tell me what she wants to tell me. Well, now, I wish I was Dr. Doolittle so I could talk to birds. I want to tell you, those bluebirds, they need to tell me what makes a good year from a bad year, because I sure don't know. We had a great year. We had 1,623 fledged, 1,623 fledged. That's the best number since 2012.
Wow.
And our percentage fledged was the best number at 77.3 since 2015. So they were out there doing something. I think maybe they were sympathizing with us for what was going on with COVID. We couldn't get out of the house so we could watch our birds, right? Well, they were very prolific, and I'll have all the statistics and whatnot posted to the website shortly. We have 21 locations, and all but 3 locations had improved numbers over last year. So that was thanks to all of our monitors, those of you that are here today. Got started early in the year with checking the boxes and everything, and then I started training some monitors, and COVID came and I couldn't get everybody trained. So thank goodness that we had a good base of monitors to rely on counting for us. I want to give a shout out to a few people that really helped me during the year. First of all, of course, to all of our monitors, so thank you. But Judy Collins went around with me early in the spring, and we checked all the boxes to make sure what kind of condition they're in. We replaced over 20 boxes and over 15 baffles. And for those places where we couldn't get to or we couldn't replace the whole thing, Vic Kozlowski, Wayne Cron, Kurt Moon, John Ball, and Dale Barnhart went out and put up new box, the whole setup, you know, the pole and baffle and everything. I needed that done. So thanks to everybody that helped during the year. Can I answer any questions about Bluebird? Yes. Are the boxes on the golf courses are all ours? Yes. Well, they have to be on the golf course property. There are plenty of houses along the golf course that have their own boxes.
You don't count.
We don't count those, we just count the ones. You'll notice that the boxes that are ours are pretty much always numbered. Makes this easier for us to keep track. Anything else? This is the last you'll hear from me until next spring.
Thank you, Kathy. If you guys haven't done the Bluebird Watch, if you have any interest in working on that as a substitute or something, let Kathy know. It's a really good program, and it doesn't take long. We do it every year, and we're very proud of our Bluebird program. Also, for those of you who don't know, the boxes are available for your own home. For Adolph, he makes all the Bluebird boxes for the course that are replacement boxes, which, what do? Replace about, how many do we have? And you can get Bluebird boxes, you can get the bird seed to feed your birds, keep them right up there on the patio or the deck with you. Now we're going to have Chris talk about Christmas bird count this year.
Morning. There has been absolutely no guidance from National Audubon yet, but your HSV Audubon board got together and we are going to do a bird count with some modifications. It will be on Monday, the 14th of December. We will start signing up electronically next month, but we're going to limit the teams that go out to 5 to 6 people, so it's only like 2 cars. But remember, you can also do at your house backyard bird count, and I'm hoping a lot of people choose to do that this year. So we will start the sign up electronically at the next meeting, so it will be October, November, and December's meeting, and then right after the December meeting, we'll get the teams together. Any questions? And there won't be a dinner this year, unless things with COVID really change. I think a dinner is just too risky. So the January meeting will be the team leaders being Zoomed or being live streamed or something, telling you their team's results, and then the backyard results too. Okay, questions? Thank you.
And also, just to let you know, Dan Scheinman, I got an email from him yesterday. He has agreed to give us a December program in some virtual form for backyard bird count. For Christmas bird count. And it will be specifically, he said, for those of us who are going to be doing a feeder count. So it should be a really good program. And again, whatever format it takes, we'll have it available online. Now, here's Harry to talk about birdseed sales.
Thank you. During this pandemic, I have noticed that I've spent more time observing my birds and tending to them. And I've noticed that they have not been social distancing. And none of them I've seen with a mask on. So they're leading a normal life. And in doing so, they kind of expect us to do the normal things and help them with food and water and shelter. So today, I'm proud to say that we're kicking off our birdseed sale for the fall. And Wayne and I have a small quantity of food here for those that you have run out and you need to resupply before we can get a delivery to you. We have order forms that you can fill out, leave with us. You can go online and order. We have the same selection, a good variety of bird seeds for you to select from. And we will be holding the sale open until Saturday, October the 10th will be the deadline for orders. And you can pick up the seeds that you order on October the 23rd and 24th. And you will get a confirmation, once you order, you'll get a confirmation that the seeds are ready for you to pick up. So we look forward to a very successful seed sale this year. I know many of you are out of seeds, as I am, and we look forward to you picking up some and hold you over until we can deliver you more. So again, thank you for your participation and support that you've given us over the years. Again, the profits are best used for programs such as this and for youth programs that we offer here in the village. So again, thank you very much, and we look forward to a great year.
Also, birdseed sales are not limited to to Audubon members. So let your friends and neighbors know that the birdseed is available right now. We sell twice a year, just so you know. And also, the bird store in Hot Springs has closed, and so there are fewer resources for good birdseed. So go online and order some birdseed. Now, Carolyn is going to introduce our guest speaker, and I'll be very candid with you. If it weren't for Carolyn, we probably wouldn't be here in this venue today. She's the one who really spearheaded the communication with Rusty and made this possible. Thank you, Carolyn.
Rona's being really risky when she lets me have this mic to introduce Rusty. It's maybe easier when you don't know a speaker as well as I do Rusty, but she's already told me this morning, brief. So I will just give you the highlights. He grew up in Northwest Louisiana and loved nature from early on, but I just asked him how he became a falconer, and he told me he was 17 years old and met a guy who was a master falconer, and actually the rest of the story I'll just wait, maybe at least during questions and answers we'll ask him to tell it. He tells it better than I do. But he ended up going to school in Louisiana, so he's a bachelor's degree of science in wildlife conservation from Louisiana Tech. And for 10 years he was the education program coordinator for Arkansas Game and Fish at our Delta Rivers Nature Center. Some of you may have been there. Well, if you weren't there before Rusty left, it was a much better place when he was still there. The fish tank was clear, you could see the fish, the exhibits were well kept. So unfortunately, Arkansas was dumb and let him be hired away back to Louisiana. Of course, that was home, so there might have been some other enticements. But he was at Delta Rivers for 10 years, and that's where we happened to meet him. And so then now he is at, I have to look at these names because all of these names are god awful long. So he just received a promotion, so we can congratulate him on that. He's now Senior Park Manager for Caddo Parish Parks and Recreations, Walter B. Jacobs Memorial Nature Park in Shreveport. So that's a recent promotion, and they are in the process of planning a new nature center there, which he's very excited about. I first introduced Rusty to this Audubon chapter in November of 2003. So he has been coming basically every 2 years since then, but he hasn't been here in several years now. So for how many of you is this a new experience for you? Oh my, oh, you are in for such a real treat. And I warn you, the first Audubon meeting I attended in the village was in fall of 99. It involved live birds, and I was hooked for the rest of my life. So you picked a really good program to come for. Rusty is one of my favorite presenters, and it is indeed with much pleasure that I introduce Rusty Scarborough once again. Welcome. All of these procedures. Welcome, Rusty.
Wow, I hope I can live up to all of that introduction. I do want to thank you for having me back once again. I have a special place in my heart for Hot Springs Village. Miss Carolyn and a select group have always treated my family very kind. My mom got to go to one of the hummingbird bandings down at Kurt Floyd's, and it was something special to her to release one of the hummingbirds from her hand for the rest of her life. I do want to apologize. I was scheduled to come last June a year ago, and due to some family emergency with my mom, we couldn't make that, but I am very pleased, even with the COVID restrictions, to see so many of you. Now, I hope I can live up to Miss Carolyn's introduction, but I don't like to lecture, I like to interact with audiences. So with the COVID as best we can, I'm going to try to do a PowerPoint. I promised Miss Carolyn that I would be able to project and it would be seen because we had an outdoor projector, but I guess my pavilion is a little less ambient light, so my apologies once again for that challenge. But today we're going to speak about...
Let me tell them about the... Excuse me, I'm sorry to interrupt, but everybody, we've got his slides online, so if you have a smartphone, you can go to our website, hsvbirds.org/owls, and all of his slides are on that website. You can run through them with him, so you can see them from your phone. Sorry.
All right, so with that, I'm going to concentrate on owls that are native to Louisiana/Arkansas. Hopefully all of this, all right. So raptors are birds of prey. Raptors is from the Latin meaning to grasp. So all birds of prey have strong, powerful tearing beak that they dissect their food with, and they have these long, powerful talons. And this is my finger next to a golden eagle female talon. So all birds of prey have sharp curved beak and long, powerful talons. We have two groups of birds of prey. We can divide them into diurnal raptors and nocturnal. So eagles, hawks, falcons, owls, kites, harriers, and ospreys, and then owls. Not all owls are nocturnal, but they're in that group, in Struthiformes. All right, so here's the largest owl that lives in Arkansas, the foot of a great horned owl. Great horned owls, females in all birds of prey, the females are 1/3 larger than the males. One of the theories is that diversifies your prey base. If you're trying to raise a family of owlets and everybody eats mice, you might deplete the population of mice over that 2-month period of raising those babies. But if one of you catches mice and one of you catches rabbits, then you diversify your prey base and have a more likelihood of being successful at raising those fledglings. So a female great horned owl is can go above 3 pounds, and that might not sound really big, but to give you a size reference, our largest birds of prey in the continental United States are the golden eagle and the bald eagle, and both of the females in those can approach 14 pounds. So our largest birds are not that heavy. So a great horned owl is a formidable predator. Anybody know what one of the favorite foods for great horned owls is? I may be jumping ahead. It's been so long since I've done this program, but skunks are one of their favorite foods. Many times when one comes into a rehabilitation, they smell like skunks because they do eat quite a lot of skunks. All right, so I put this slide together because I wanted to show the eye sockets on both skulls. So the human skull, if you look, the eyeball is almost the exact same size. So in the human skull, the eyeball is about 1 inch tall, and the skull is about 10 or 11 inches tall. And in the great horned owl, the skull is about 1.5 inches tall, and yet the eyes are still about 1 inch tall. So since they're a nocturnal creature, they need to gather as much ambient light as available, and with only the moonlight and starlight being what they hunt by, they need a larger eye. So most nocturnal animals have enlarged eyes, and their pupils can dilate to the extreme of that eye. So here's how the pupil of your eye and a camera lens, at least the older lenses, had aperture rings. So in low light, you open the aperture up, and in bright light, the aperture closes down. Your pupil does the same thing. It controls the amount of light. If I shine a light into your eye, you're getting too much light into it and you can't see. If you go into Blanchard Caverns and they turn out all the lights, there's no light available, and no matter how big of an eye you have, if there's no light, you can't see. So owls, on a very cloudy night, where there's no moonlight and no sunlight penetrating to the forest floor, can they see? I mean, we're kind of playing with words, but if there's no light from the moon or the stars penetrating to the forest floor, can an owl see? If there's no light, they cannot see. All eyes must have light to be able to see. All right. But owls also have an exceptional sense of hearing. So the human ear is obvious, but an owl's ear is not. Now, in the human ear, we actually have this thing on the outside of our head called the pinna, and it's pretty much just a funnel that funnels sound waves into your ear. Owls have not a pinna, but they have facial discs. So these facial discs are arranged to funnel sound waves into their ear, which sits directly behind the eye. So any bird that you see that has this facial disc, that's funneling sound waves. You can tell that they partially hunt by their sense of hearing. So marsh hawks or northern harriers, they have a facial disc. They fly low over pastures and fields, and they ambush by hearing a lot of the mice and small birds that they catch. Harris's hawks from the desert southwest, they have a facial disc. I'll tell you a little story. Miss Carolyn said that I was a falconer. I have been a falconer since I was 17, and I have, for the most part of my career as a falconer, flown Harris's hawks. They are a family-oriented predator. They're like a pack of wolves. So they all hunt together. They cooperate in the hunt. They cooperate in raising the babies. So in 2003, I went to Arizona and got drawn in a permit to trap a wild Harris's hawk to hunt for falconry. I flew that bird for 12 years until she passed away. And when I was first manning, where we get associated with the bird, I had her in my office down at Delta Rivers Nature Center. And I was sitting at my credenza, and the bird was on a perch, over in the corner of my office. And I had a playlist rolling, and Blue Man Group, if any of you know that percussion group, Blue Man Group was playing, and it was really odd. My bird's name was Paddling, so she hops off the perch and she walks over and looks under my credenza, like that she hears or sees something. And I turned off the music and I put her back on the perch, and when she relaxed and pulls a foot up and she's just sitting there, I turned on the music again, and again she hops off the perch and walks over and starts looking under my credenza. So I have extrapolated that to her must have sounded like a rabbit in a tunnel or something, because she kept looking underneath where the speaker was for that bumping in the percussion. So they do hunt largely by hearing. All right, so facial discs, we see them. Now, all of our hoot owls, the barred owl, the great horned owl, and the screech owl, the eastern screech owl, are all what we generally call hoot owls. And they're in one group, and then we have Titanidae is the barn owls. So barn owls are all over the world just about, many different subspecies, but we only have one here in North America. And they have the largest facial disc compared to the size of their head. And they have this heart-shaped face, or monkey-shaped face. They did some experiments with barn owls, and they could hear a mouse step on a leaf or a twig from 75 feet away. They did another experiment. I watched the video of this one. They took a room and blacked out all of the lights, and they put a special camera that could record in no light situation. And they covered the floor of this room with leaves, and they put a barn owl in with the video running. And that barn owl flies directly to where the mouse is crawling in the leaves. It puts its face directly over where it hears it, and then the mouse moves again and it snatches it up and eats it. So even on that dark night where no light penetrates to the forest floor, these owls can still hunt by their sense of hearing. This is the great gray owl, and they do not live down here in the deep south, but they intrigue me greatly. This enormous facial disc. Now, great gray owls live way up north, and we don't get a lot of it down here, but they get a lot of deep snow in the very far northern. I'm sure a number of my audience are from way up north, Wisconsin. I've heard the word Wisconsin said a few times over the last few hours. So great gray owls hunt almost exclusively by their sense of hearing. And this boggles my mind. If you're a mouse and you're in Wisconsin and you're in the wintertime, do you run across the top of the snow? You're a brown mouse and you run across that white background? They tunnel under the snow. Great gray owls can hear mice feet prints going in the snow, and they crash through the snow and grab them out of the... I can't wrap my mind around, I've been a biologist all of my adult life, but can you imagine how little bit of noise mice feet make in a tunnel of snow? And these animals hunt like that. Oh my goodness. This is a really cool slide, and I am very sorry that it's not showing up, but if you can strain your eyes, do you see this little eyelash that's on the trailing edge, the leading edge of the great horned owl's feather? If you strain, it looks like an eyelash on the leading feather of a great horn, of any of our owl's wings. This is the smooth edge of a hawk's wing. So the leading edge of a hawk's wing is very smooth, almost knife-like, and it cuts through the air. But just like if you're sitting here under one of these fans, you can hear those blades cutting through the air. If a hawk wing travels through air at speed, you can hear that. I'm gonna tell about my roots. I grew up in the deep south, and my mom believed in switches. And when a switch is swung through the air, it makes a noise. A great horned owl or any of our owl's wings have this little eyelash fuzz at the leading edge, and it allows them silent flight. Because once again, if you're hunting predators at night, If mice hear something make a noise, they don't say, I wonder what made that noise, I'll go investigate. They run and hide. So an owl can't make any noise and still be successful at eating. So they have developed these very fuzzy, soft feathers that allows for silent flight. So if you took a limb or a switch and swung it through the air, it makes that sound. If you wrap that same limb with yarn and swing it through the air, it won't make hardly any noise. So that broken up edge is what allows owls to have that silent flight. Also, they help to find their food. If you see these little whisker feathers right around the face, that helps them in darkness find their food. When they lean down to try to bite, those little whisker feathers, it looks like hairs, but they are feathers. So we have the barn owl with pretty large, this is the owl, we have an aviary at the nature park in Shreveport, and we have a couple of barn owls in there, so we teach all the kids what the owls say. And so barn owls say, who cooks for you? Who cooks for y'all? So if you're out at nighttime and you're anywhere near a wet, swampy area, you will hear that. That's the barn owl. Who cooks for you? They live in wet, swampy areas. They like to eat a lot of snakes and frogs and lizards and herbs. They like all that stuff. Now they eat anything. They'll eat crawfish and they'll eat birds and anything to catch. Almost all of our birds of prey are opportunistic predators. Whatever comes in front of it, that's what we're eating for supper. But they tend to be in wet, swampy areas, so they do eat a lot of frogs and snakes. And there's some really cool videos out there on YouTube of nest cams showing what all the barn owls bring back to the nest. Mostly barn owls eat rodents of varying sizes, so anything from a shrew up to a gopher is mostly what they eat. Owls are cool in that, like when most birds start incubating their eggs, they lay a clutch of eggs and then they start incubating. Owls get really excited about their nesting, and as soon as that first egg is laid, they start incubating. So about every third day, they lay another egg. So in a barn owl nest, you might have 5 to 7 babies, and they'll be stair-step kids, because one of them started eating 3 days before the other one, and as they raise them over, it takes about 3 months to raise those out. Usually, most of our smaller birds of prey only spend 8 weeks with mom and dad, and then they're out on their own. Sounds like a good idea, right? I tell a lot of the young people that come to the nature park, I said, yeah, some of y'all are going to get 18 to 35 years depending on how nice mom and dad are. But owls get 8 weeks and they're kicked out of their house. This is a great horned owl. I took this picture when I was actually on a falconry hunt. My bird was in the air and I found this great horned owl. Fortunately, we moved away and nobody got into a conflict because great horned owls, as I said earlier, are formidable predators. This is our smallest owl we have. I'm sorry, let me back up to the great horned owl. They say, who's away? And I've got the app that'll do a whole lot better job than I do in just a moment. The eastern screech owl is our smallest owl. I was hosted by the Cashes last evening and we were sitting out on the patio and we heard an eastern screech owl from their patio yesterday. They're in 2 color phases. They come in a gray phase and a red phase. And typically that is habitat based. So if you're in a forest that has a lot of post oaks tend to have an orangey reddish fall leaf after they've died. The dead leaves hang on the trees a little bit longer. And we typically see more red phase in that kind of an ecosystem. And if you're in a white oak forest, we typically see more gray phases, but they can overlap. So, okay, before we go to the others, let me see if my technology will all cooperate. And we'll listen to all the sounds of those guys. I neglected to get my glasses out. All right, so you know you try all of this technology and it all works before the program. Let's see if it works. The eastern screech owl kind of sounds like a horse when it whinnies. I'll tell you what, technology's not cooperating. I'm going to cut to the chase. I'll just put my phone really closely to the microphone. So the barn owl, to me, makes the scariest sound of any of our owls. So apologies, this is as loud as I can get it with my Bluetooth not working. Is that even playing through the speaker? One time we had a nest of baby barn owls brought into Delta Rivers Nature Center, and I was down there and I came up to Little Rock Zoo to meet Rodney Paul to transfer those young ones to him. And I had a little GMC Jimmy and 4 baby barn owls screaming for the 35-minute drive from Pine Bluff to Little Rock. It was unnerving. Cooks for you. And then I like when a pair is really bonding, I think they sound a lot like a bunch of monkeys. All right, and then the eastern screech owl that we got to hear last night. They also make the sound that we hear in every scary movie right before Jason comes out with a knife. In there right where you're saying, don't go in there. And then the great horned owl I've passed over. Let me find it. Alright, so that's our most common owls. And then we do have 3 or 4 more incidental species that we do not see very often, but they do occur. This is the short-eared owl, and I think the short-eared owl and the long-eared owl always look surprised when I see pictures of them. So they have these very tiny little tips on their tufts. And there's the long-eared owl. And then everybody's favorite, the burrowing owl, which is largely dire. All right, that's the end of the slide presentation. Are there any questions, anything that you couldn't see very well that I need to clarify? I brought we have a salvage permit and we do rehabilitation, as I mentioned earlier. So here is the wing of a barred owl, the one that lives in the swampy areas. So this is half as wide as an owl, a barred owl would be. Here's the barn owl. In some of our owls, we see sexual dimorphism, we see a color difference. In most birds of prey, there's no color difference in the males and the females. But in some of our owls, especially barred owls, this is the wing of a female. Males have less orangey yellow and are more creamy colored, white and creamy colored. So if you've watched those Harry Potter movies, the white, the snowy owl, the one that's the most white is the male, and the one with a lot of black dots on is a female. So in a few species, not the great horned owl, not the screech owls, not the barred owl. The barn owl we can tell, the snowy owls we can tell. So a few species we can see sexual dimorphism. And here is the great horned owl's wing. And that's our largest nocturnal predator. I will have these out for a little bit after the meeting. If you'd like to come up, this wing here you can see. Please try to maintain your social distancing, but you're welcome to come and see that eyelash fuzz at the top of this leading edge of the wing. All right, anybody have any questions before we move on to live birds? Yes. Do owls have predators? Larger owls. So, one of the things that I see birders do a lot is they'll take a recording of a screech owl and play that to try to make other birds sound an alarm, and you can find them. Just caution you about using small owl sounds like the eastern screech owl, because if you play that trill a lot in a forest, you're ringing the dinner bell for barred owls and great horned owls, because they'll eat the little guys. So typically birds of prey do not have any predators other than humans, and large, certainly if an owl catches a rabbit and the rabbit squeals, a coyote or a fox might fight them over that food and kill them, but they're not an active predator-prey relationship. Animals, most predator animals are opportunistic, and if something's an easy meal, they'll take advantage of it, whether it's an owl or a mouse or a grasshopper. But the only true predation of owls is from larger owls or larger birds of prey. So an eagle might kill a great horned owl might eat a screech owl. They don't typically have any other predators. Yes?
The owls with the tufted ear, are those their actual ears, or do they still have their ears up behind their eyes?
Okay, the question is to the tufted owls that have the little feather tufts. They're actually just feathers. They're not ears, they're just feather decorations. Their ear, actually I should have probably done a better demonstration of this, but owls have an ear on either side of their head. They're directly behind the eye, behind that facial disc. One owl ear is slightly above and directed back, and one owl ear faces forward and down, so they can hear in 4 dimensions. They have, one ear on each side, but the one on this side faces up and out, and the one on this side faces down and back. So they can hear in front of them, behind them, above them, and below them, and left and right. And some of them have, if the ear is dissected, the feathers are all taken apart, it's amazing at the openings of the flesh that those sound waves form into. But the feather tufts on the great horned owl or the eastern screech owl, the surprised owls, those are just feather decorations. Any more questions? All right, I'm going to have to put the mic down to get birds out. I'll try to project while I don't have a mic. Now our birds have suffered during COVID that they've not had a lot of fizz time, so we don't know what kind of circus we're going to have when they get out. They haven't been handled since before February, so we'll see. This is our great horned owl. This is a male great horned owl, so it's smaller than the female. So he's a little bit intimidated. He's not holding his feather tufts up. Let's see if I can make one stand up.
Great horn.
The fun part of that is making it stand up without getting bitten and losing a little bit of flesh. And no, I can't make him do that. He just did it on his own. Owls are also what we call the 25-cent words is called zygodactylous. So like ospreys and woodpeckers, they have 2 toes facing forward, 2 toes facing backwards. Where most birds, they have 3 toes facing forward and 1 toe facing back. See that we're in a pretty bright situation, so you can just see those pinpoint pupils. If he's out in low light, that pupil will all the way fill up that eye socket. So I said this is the largest owl we have in Arkansas. This is a male, so it's smaller than they get. And he's kind of sitting all hunkered down today. I'm sorry? How far can he see? Bird of prey eyes are geared. There's more rod cells than cone cells. In your eye, there's more cone cells, so we see more detail and color. Birds of prey eyes are more rod cells, so they detect movement. So it's not so much that they see far, it's they detect any movement. So if a squirrel or a mouse sits perfectly still, a bird can't see them. A hawk or an owl can't see them. But if they blink their eye or take a deep breath or move their foot, they can see that. I've been sitting on a deer stand in Louisiana and had full camo with just my eyes, a face shield with just my eyes open, and I've had a barred owl fly up and sit this close to me, standing on a deer stand. So they saw my eye blinking and thought it was a small animal. So it's not about distance, it's about movement, but they certainly can see for a long way. I don't know if I've read any articles about distance in owls. Certainly like a peregrine can see something move from several miles away, but that's not typically how owls hunt. They're usually in ambush, sitting in a ledge or a loft or a tree, and an animal walks on the ground under them, and they ambush, catch them.
Rusty, where did you get him?
All of our animals came in from rehabilitation sites. So there's one there in Shreveport that we got this owl from. I'm not sure what, most of them are hit by cars. This one doesn't have any visible, but it can't fly well enough to hunt. If it can't fly well enough to go back to the wild and be 100%, they don't release them back to the wild. So all of our animals are rehabilitation animals that cannot be released back. If they're not an injured animal, they're an orphan that was raised in captivity and is therefore imprinted on humans and can't be released for that reason, because animals that are imprinted don't think they're a human. They just think they look like whatever raises them. So when that animal becomes territorial in a nesting situation, if it was raised by people and released, if people came hiking through that area, that owl would run the people out because it thinks it's an equivalent. It thinks it looks like that. So a natural raised owl recognizes that we're bigger than they are, but if I raise this owl, it thinks it looks just like me. So they will attack. In fact, I went and captured a barred owl that somebody had released in Shreveport, and these people had had a death in the family, and people were bringing by food, and that owl scratched 3 people's heads, and I went and captured that owl because it had obviously been raised by people and was territorial in their yard, and we kept it in captivity so it didn't injure anybody. That's why you can't release imprinted raised animals. They have to be creche reared or raised with a bunch of other babies to be released.
That makes sense. Back in the box.
And now we have our native Arkansan. This owl came to us from Rodney Paul. Apparently it was injured in one of the fans at Nuclear One. So it's got a droopy wing and can't be released. But this is a barn owl. Easy. So this wing over here is a little bit droopy, and she can fly, but not fly well enough to be released back to the wild. And if I turn her around and show you her back, if you see how gray and orange she is, that's the female coloration. The male would be much lighter, more creamy and white. Also on barn owls, most birds look at you with their beak pointing at you. Barn owls, their beak is down against their chest, so they're rotating those ears more forward on their head. Barn owls will eat 1,200 mice, rats, and voles in a year. And in a nesting cycle, they will provide 2,500 mice, rats, shrews, and voles to those babies. So they're the best mouse trap out there. Very tiny birds. I mean, it looks large, but there's very little body to it. It's very lightweight. This bird probably weighs, if it weighs a pound, I'd be surprised.
Really?
Yeah, this wing on this side over here was caught in the fan.
Oh, wow.
And it broke it. And when we got it, they had trimmed the feathers because it kept stepping on it, but it has retracted a little bit, so we don't trim the feathers anymore. Yes?
What's the time frame from when the small owls hatch when they leave?
About 8 weeks. Eagles will stay in the nest a little bit longer, but most of our, like everything from small falcons up to great horned owls and red-tailed hawks, 8 weeks in the nest. Eagles maybe 3 months. But with some of the owls and with like the great horned owl and with the eagles, even after the fledglings leave the nest, mom and dad will still help bring them food. All right, any other questions that I can try to answer? Yes?
Do choke-quills, willow woodpeckers, do they have similar characteristics as the owls?
Do choke-quills, widows have similar characteristics with owls? Their coloration is somewhat close. I don't know how to answer. To me, I never thought so. But I've received several calls for injured birds or owls in buildings that I needed to come and capture and release, and several times they were choke-quills widow. Or, I'm sorry, not choke-quills widow. Common nighthawks. So, somewhat similar coloration. But really no, I mean, they have a regular beak with a wide gape. They have the hairy feathers around the face that serve the same purpose. But I have been called to come get owls that ended up being animals in that group. So maybe to lay people, they do look similar. Right. Some of the owls, most of our owls are cavity nesters. So the eastern screech owl will nest in a box like a wood duck or a hollow tree. Barred owls I've seen take over, barred owls and great horned owls I've seen take over nest on those platforms on top. But barn owls and screech owls are cavity nesters. Yes, back in black.
Does an owl can it actually turn its head 360?
Okay, great. Can an owl turn its head 360? So all mammals have 7 bones in their neck, and you can turn your head from facing to about even with your shoulder. So all mammals, even a giraffe, only has 7 vertebrae in their neck. Birds have 12 to 14 in their neck. So a bird, an owl, or a hawk can go about 300, 280 to 300, so they can go past this shoulder, look around over this shoulder. They cannot go 360, but they move their head around back so quickly it looks like they went all the way around. But it's because they have more bones in their neck. Was there, yes? I'm sorry, I can't hear you. Well, the question is the owls that I've shown you, how high up do they prefer to nest? On the Bossier City side of the Jimmy Davis Bridge in Shreveport, there is a cottonwood that's 80 to 100 feet tall, and there is a big nest in that tree, and I've seen, it seems like they switch up every other year, red tails and great horned owls in that nest. I really like it when it's a great horned owl because I can see those feather stuff sticking up from the highway, but it's at the top. I've also seen great horned owls in a canyon out west that their nest is only 12 feet off the ground on a ledge. So any variant between there. Barn owls, typically, they got their name because they like to nest in barns and old silos. So I've seen them, Nuclear One is a tall place. I didn't see where the nest was, but that bird was in a tall area. Old silos, they'll nest in the top of those silos. If you go into a derelict old silo and look on the ground, it'll be covered with barn owl pellets. Once again, it can be 10 feet tall. It's just a cavity, an old shack, a deer stand. I've seen them nest in all of those. So it just depends on how high or how low the available place is. I've seen a few barred owl nests, and typically they're somewhat tall. One of them, my favorite one that was ever the lowest, was when a tornado came through close to our house and it broke the top out of a tree and it just bent over and all those prongs were sticking up about 20 feet off the ground, and a barred owl nested right where all the prongs were. So it just varies. Like I say, it's pretty much opportunism. Whatever makes a good house is where you'll see them. Now they do come back to those nests every year. Any other questions? I'm very grateful to the Village Audubon Society for inviting me back. I love coming home to this group, and I've made wonderful friends. I'll be here to answer any questions if we can do it safely, and you're welcome to come and look at the wings. Thank you very much.
I forgot to say something really important in the introduction. Where Rusty works at the Walter Jacobs Nature Center in Louisiana, their official policy is that they are giving no personal in-person presentations. And because Rusty had already committed to this, he really was committed. So he had to take a personal leave that day. He's not representing the nature park like he normally would be. He had to take a personal leave day to be able to come today. So I just special thanks. Thank you.
Okay. Rusty's going to be here for a little while. You can come and see talk to him and see the owl wings and so forth. Please honor social distancing. I can't believe so many people turned out for this event, and thank you so much for doing that. In October, we're going to have the Batman, Philip Jordan, and it will be a virtual event. We'll put it on the website and let everyone know how it is, but we don't think that going into the fall, we are going to experience this kind of weather very many days. So we don't dare plan something and then have a cold day or a thunderstorm. Are there any questions? Anyone have anything that they need to talk about? Yes, ma'am. Tim Ernst is not doing any other events for the rest of 2020. However, we have photographers of equal, actually better, because it's our own Vic and Sharon Krslipski. And so we will be doing, again, it will be a virtual event because it's in November. And then in December, we have Dan Scheinman, which I mentioned earlier, and he'll be doing a Christmas bird count virtual event for us. And we don't know what we're going to do in January. Hopefully we'll be able to start meeting again relatively soon. But thank you everyone for honoring the social distancing. Yes, sir.
It seems to me if we spend his time and money to bring us this very good program, that we could pick up a few dollars to buy his gas.
That would be great. That's a great suggestion. And you can, I think that would be great. Can I put you in charge of it? No. You have to be careful with me. I think that's a good suggestion, sir. Anyone who wants to make a donation to Rusty would be free to do so. Adolph, can you handle that for us? Taking donations, and anyone who wants to make a donation for Rusty. Anyone else have, and we, by the way, HSV Audubon is going to, it has a check for Rusty as well. So thank you everyone for coming, and Patty, do you have a question? No. The meeting's adjourned.